Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's NCARB Live, exploring the integrated path to architectural licensure, also known as IPAL. I'm Brittany Cosby, Program Specialist in the Experience in Education Department here at NCARB, and I'm joined by two special guests from the Catholic University of America. We have educator and IPAL advisor, Patricia Andrasik, and IPAL student, Andrea Hopkins. Thank you both for joining us today. Whether you are a student interested in participating in an IPAL program or an educator trying to familiarize yourself with IPAL, we have some helpful information for you today. You can submit your questions at any time by using the chat tool on your screen, and we'll be sure to get to as many questions as we can. If you have to sign off early, you can view our full webinar later on our blog or YouTube channel. So before we get started, can you both briefly introduce yourselves and explain describe your role in the IPAL program at Catholic?
Hi, my name is Andrea Hopkins. I'm a third-year architecture student and IPAL student. I just finished my first internship and am currently starting my Pro 2 studio.
And my name is Patricia Andrasik, and I am the IPAL coordinator at the School of Architecture and Planning at the Catholic University of America. I'm also an associate professor of architecture, and I also serve as the associate dean for undergraduate studies there.
And again, I'm Brittany Cosby, program specialist in the Experience in Education Department here at NCARB. And IPAL is one of the programs I manage with Vice President Harry Falconer. I work very closely with IPAL Advisors at our participating schools to ensure they have the support they need from NCARB to offer and maintain a successful IPAL option. The Integrated Path to Architectural Licensure, it was created by NCARB in 2015 to offer a dynamic, innovative path to licensure for students who are motivated in becoming architects. By enrolling in an IPAL program at a NAB-accredited school, students can complete their AXP and ARE requirements to become eligible for licensure shortly after graduation. And we have had 7 IPAL graduates who have done just that. Today, we have 26 programs at 21 different colleges from across the country, and you can view a full list of our participating schools on our website. So as we wait for questions to come in from our audience, Patricia, what factors should students consider before enrolling in an IPAL program?
I would say it depends on the program itself. There are many different types of programs at various schools across the country. Our program, for example, I would recommend that students focus on their grades their freshman year and their architecture studios in the freshman year as well. Because in our program, we determine IPAL qualifications based on that first semester of grades. But I think it varies for different programs. But as a freshman, I would focus on the architecture courses and the overall grades in particular.
Thank you, Patricia. And Andrea, what made you decide to participate in the IPAL program at Catholic?
Well, architecture has always been something that I've been drawn to and over the years fell in love with. So IPAL just really seemed to suit me because it was like the fastest way to achieve my dreams, essentially.
All right, thank you both for those great responses. So let's start taking some questions from our audience. Remember, you can submit your questions at any time using the chat tool on your screen. And the first question we have is, how do I become an IPAL student? And I will take that question. So if you are a student interested in participating in an IPAL program, I suggest contacting the school that you are interested in enrolling in. While IPAL was created to offer the opportunity for students to complete AXP and ARE requirements while in their program, each IPAL option is different. So you would need to reach out to the individual school to inquire on their admissions requirements. Some schools have specific GPA requirements. Others may require you to come into the program with a set amount of AXP hours. So definitely reach out to the university you are interested in enrolling in if you are interested in joining an IPAL program. And if you need assistance finding who that contact person may be at the university, you can always reach out to us directly at NCARB at IPAL@NCARB.org, and we'll be happy to get you in contact with the correct IPAL advisor. And our next question from the audience is, what are some of the benefits of participating in IPAL? And I'll give that question to you, Andrea.
So the benefits, I would say, is that you're constantly learning. At least in the IPAL track at Catholic University, I have no empty summer. That's not a bad thing because I love architecture, so I'm constantly learning about it. And whether that's because I have to take a studio during the summer or because I'm working in the field, I'm constantly refining my skills and just adding to a bank of knowledge that I know.
All right, thank you. And did you have any tips that you would like to share for students interested in starting IPAL?
Yeah, the benefits of IPAL, in addition to what Andrea was saying, you're more. I think you mature faster as an architectural professional when you're in IPAL, because at least on our track, having to seek an internship as a second or third year student forces you to develop architectural skills of being interviewed, portfolio management, resume creation a lot earlier than a traditional architecture track.
All right, thank you. And our next question is, how does joining IPAL impact a school's existing curriculum? And I will start off with that answer. So when NCARB created IPAL back in 2015, our goal was not for universities to have to change their curriculum. Our goal was for schools to find a way to incorporate AXP and ARE requirements into their existing curriculum and giving IPAL students the opportunity to complete those requirements while in their NAB degree program. So did you have anything you would like to add about how does joining IPAL impact a school's existing curriculum?
Sure. So as I mentioned, and as Brittany has discussed, there are so many different IPAL tracks at various universities across the country. At the Catholic University of America, our curriculum for IPAL is the same as our standard architectural students. The only caveat is that after a student completes their freshman year and is inaugurated into the IPAL program, that summer they remain with us. And what we call it is a boot camp. So they engage in 201 and 202 studio, which is a total of 9 credits. They go to school pretty much every day in the summer. And what that offers them is a head start. So then when they begin their sophomore year, they're automatically in a junior studio. And the reason why we have that order is so the students can then leave at the end of their third year, their junior year, and begin working in a firm. So the only difference between an IPAL curriculum and a standard curriculum would just be that one summer. Otherwise, the curriculum is exactly the same.
The next question we have is for you, Patricia. What role do IPAL advisors play?
I think, again, this is dependent on the IPAL program at the various schools. SCAD has a very unique relationship with their students where there's a lot of very close mentoring. At the Catholic University of America, because we're in Washington, D.C., we are depending on the students to make their initial launches with their firms. We have over 500 firms within a stone's throw away of our school. We want the students to themselves go out there and seek the jobs. Of course, we are there to help them with portfolio preparation, and we have firms, for example, like Hickok Cole and ZGF that offer portfolio prep and resume working classes. And that's a part of how our IPAL program works. We give them a little nudge, we give them a little bit of support, but we really would like the students to learn on their own how to manage their time and how to engage in firms.
And as I mentioned, I work very closely with the IPAL advisors at each of our participating schools. So we do work very closely with the IPAL advisors as they keep us up to date on the status of their programs. They are in contact with us, and they submit annual reports to us to let us know their current student enrollment numbers. They also update our internal IPAL management system to keep us abreast of how their cohorts are going as well. So we do like to stay in contact with the IPAL advisors because we know that they are in the front line advising students from enrollment to graduation. So the next question we have from the audience is for you, Andrea. What tips do you have for balancing experience and examinations with taking classes?
Experience, examination, and taking classes. Well, for my track, I was just working while taking my exams, so I didn't have to worry about classes. I think that's one of the benefits of coming to the IPAL program in Catholic. So after work, I was able to just study for my exams and just solely focus on that. And while I'm in school, we're not allowed to take exams, so I'm able to just focus on studio and my other classes.
Awesome. And our next question is for you, Patricia. What type of resources are offered to IPAL students?
For the exams or for internships or for both?
I believe in general, I guess such as the soiree event that you all may have specifically for
So
IPAL
at
students.
Catholic University, we have a fall event we call it the IPAL Soiree. And we invite a couple handfuls of firms to the Catholic University. We have a little bit of hors d'oeuvres. We call it a soiree because it's more of a networking session rather than a full-on job fair. And it's a great opportunity for students to talk to firms that they're interested in working with. It's more of a matchmaking session, and it also exposes the firm to the quality of students that we have that will be looking for a job 9 months from that soiree date. In those 9 months, students can cultivate relationships with those firms and other firms. During those 9 months, we give them opportunities to develop their portfolio, their resume. Even we can do some mock interviews, which some students, we have mock interviews with the students at times. And then we have a career fair in February. So the students actually have 2 times where they can directly interact with the firms before they go for their job.
Awesome. And our next question is, do all jurisdictions accept IPAL? And I'm so glad this question was asked because that's one of the key things that we try to advise prospective students on regarding IPAL is to check directly with the jurisdiction you're interested in pursuing a license because, as mentioned, the program was just created 5 years ago. So not all jurisdictions are on board yet. So you definitely want to check directly with the jurisdiction you're interested in pursuing a license to make sure they will accept your exams taken through IPAL. And the next comment/question, my school doesn't offer an IPAL option yet. What steps would they have to take to make this happen? So I can start with that answer. So if you're at a school that does not currently offer IPAL, you can definitely connect with one of the educators at your university and ask them to reach out to us directly. We do accept proposals year-round. The school would have to be a NAB accredited program, and they would have to be able to demonstrate, just as Catholic has in our other 21 participating schools, they would have to demonstrate how they would allow students to complete AXP as well as ARE requirements within their existing curriculum. So again, we're not asking for schools to recreate or change their curriculum, but they would have to demonstrate how they would incorporate that. If a school is interested, you can definitely reach out to us at IPAL@NCARB.org for the proposal form, or you can access it on our website. The next question is IPAL a good idea for people in the architecture field who have a significant amount of experience?
I would say so. I don't see why it's not. I think IPAL is just a way to get your license as quick as possible. So if you already have a lot of knowledge going in, I don't see how that would be a negative. If anything, it'll help you in your classes and when you go to work.
And I'll piggyback off of that. IPAL does require the same AXP requirements, just as any other licensure path. So you would have to complete the 3,740 hours. If you already have AXP hours attained, that's a plus at for a lot of schools, because as I previously mentioned, some of our IPAL programs, they actually require students to have a certain amount of AXP hours in order to be admitted into the program. So I think it's definitely a great idea for individuals who already have experience in the field to go ahead, go through IPAL, get your NAB accredited degree, come in with the AXP hours you already have, and complete the remaining hours, and also have the opportunity to take the ARE and get licensed shortly after graduation. All right, we have another question. How easy or difficult is integration into the program for a student joining IPAL as a graduate student?
So we this is a great question, because we have our first student joining our IPAL program as a master's student. She's coming in as a Master of Architecture in our 3-year program, and it's fairly easy. Again, as we have arranged our undergraduate curriculum, we arranged our master's curriculum to afford the students an opportunity to take 3 8-month dedicated internships. In addition to those internships, all of our students are required to take 2 licensing exams per internship. So just as we've allowed or allocated 8 months, 3 8-month openings in the undergrad, we've allowed 3 8-month openings in the grad program.
Thank you for that question.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Our next question is, can I still graduate if I don't complete the AXP and ARE before finishing the program? And the answer is yes, of course. We want you to graduate because you're still enrolled in a NAB accredited program. So you will still meet the education requirement for most jurisdictions by having that NAB degree. You won't graduate with IPAL status, but you will still graduate with the degree and the hours that you have obtained in the program, and also your exams if the jurisdiction you're interested in pursuing will accept them taken through IPAL. The next question is, does participating in IPAL cost extra? And I'll give that question to you.
So we get this question a lot. A lot of our parents that come in for our introduction days or preview days, we call those cardinal preview days at the Catholic University of America. I may add that a significant amount of parents that I meet now at the beginning of the school year interested in Catholic and looking at other schools are here because of the IPAL program, and they're only looking at IPAL schools. I think that's significant to point out. But can you repeat the question one more time?
Does participating in IPAL cost extra?
Yeah. The short answer is no. It doesn't cost extra. It's the same amount at Catholic University as the standard undergraduate and master's architectural program. There is a caveat in our program, however, with respect to the 8-month internships. As you may or may not know, scholarships, governmental scholarships, need to be paid back once a student begins to work. So in our program, we explain to the parents and the students that are starting the IPAL program that these 3 8-month internship experience times, their government loans may go into default because, frankly, the students are making a lot of money and the government doesn't recognize them as being students. Now, there are programs across the country, IPAL programs, that offer integrated internships that do count for classes, so the students are always registered. So with respect to costing more, at Catholic University, our IPAL program, the only cost would be that you're paying back the loans at a certain point. The only additional cost, I would say, for all IPAL programs across the country would be the cost of your licensing examinations in addition to your tuition. Now, there are programs that offer scholarships. We're actually going to be starting scholarships for IPAL students. Firms have offered to sponsor IPAL students, their examinations. So there are offsets to these costs, but the overall answer is, at least in our program, it does not cost extra.
Yes, and to piggyback off of what Patricia has already said, NCARB also does not charge a fee to participate in IPAL. As Patricia said, with any student seeking licensure, you would have to pay for the exam seat. All IPAL students would have to start an NCARB record because that's how they would document their AXP hours and actually schedule their exams. So there would be the fee to actually start your NCARB record, which is not a fee specifically for IPAL students, but for all students or licensure candidates who are pursuing a license. So our next question is for Andrea. Is it difficult as a student to get the wide variety of AXP experience required to complete the program?
I would say it depends on where you work. So some people did, or some of my friends had way more than the hours that they needed because they worked in a really big city and they had to do a lot of overtime. And then some people met it because they were just working their 40 hours a week. And then some people took time off, so maybe they're a little short. So that's really up to you and where you decide to work. When interviewing, I would definitely tell that person that you have a set amount of hours that you need to complete in order to stay on track. But it's definitely doable.
And Andrea, our next question, I think you briefly touched on it earlier, but another audience member asked, what attracted you to the IPAL program?
So what attracted me was my love for architecture. And basically, I don't see how getting a license like right after I graduate as a negative. Yeah, you had to put in a little bit of extra work while in school. But for me, it's something really exciting and something that I was really wanting to do.
And our next question, I believe, is for you, Patricia. Can you, as a professor, approve AXP hours from site visits or similar?
Excellent question. I get this question a lot. And professors have, tenured or tenure-track professors have obligations of research, scholarly work, of teaching, and of service. A lot of professors in architecture have their own projects and have research agendas that they involve students in sometimes. I know in a few projects that I've done, I'm a licensed architect in Washington, D.C., so some of my research includes actual buildings up to schematic design, and I have engaged students in that process with me. And I've also signed their hours, their AXP hours as their supervisor, architectural supervisor. That was always counted in the category of O for other. Because I'm affiliated with the university, I don't have my own firm. That goes under the umbrella of the university, and the university is not a legitimate architectural firm. So for that reason, it counted as other. But if your faculty has their own firm, or if they're part-time faculty, I don't see any reason why, if you're working with them on a project as a student, you wouldn't be able to receive AXP hours straight up as a standard hour.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And the next question is, how often do IPAL students meet with their IPAL advisors? I know you two have been chatting a bit before we went live, so y'all definitely have a close relationship and meet with each other quite frequently.
Well, Catholic's a pretty small school, so I'm constantly running into Patricia. I'm currently taking one of her classes. I've had classes with her before. So I guess that's like the really awesome thing about Catholic is that I'm constantly running into the dean of students and all of like the head people that run the School of Architecture. So it's a really tight-knit community. I guess that depends on every school. But I know if I have an emergency and I need to talk to Patricia as my advisor, I can always find her.
On my end, I have students just walking in. I just had 3 students walk in at different times yesterday. I'm nervous about my upcoming interview. I'm interviewing tomorrow. And sometimes I'll move my schedule over a little bit and I'll say, okay, let's do a 15-minute mock interview. And I'll shoot them questions from left field and difficult questions that they may have to answer. But I think it does depend on the program. So if you're looking for an IPAL program, I would look at the size of the school, the type of program. I'm going to use SCAD as another example. SCAD has an IPAL coordinator, an advisor that meets with her students on a regular basis. I run into my students regularly, but I hound them as their IPAL advisor to make sure that they're on track with their hours, to make sure that they're taking their licensing exams, and to make sure that they're doing well in school. As the Associate Dean for Undergraduate Students, that makes my job as an IPAL advisor a little easier. But I would definitely recommend when you're researching IPAL programs to research the type of the school it is and to make sure that if you're interested in a tighter mentorship, that you look for a school that offers that via their IPAL program.
That's a really great point and great advice. And from NCARB's perspective, we definitely recommend IPAL advisors to meet with their students at least at the very minimum once per semester or quarter. Because as I mentioned, it is the IPAL advisor's responsibility to keep NCARB up to date of the student status, whether they are still enrolled, if they have left the program, if they are on the verge of leaving the program. We have to know those type of updates, those type of things. So advisors should definitely be in contact with the students at least once throughout the semester. The next question is, say for some reason a student was unable to finish the exams before graduation, would that student lose the exam credits gained while in the program? And that goes back to my previous point, why it's so important to check directly with the jurisdiction you're interested in pursuing a license, because again, not all jurisdictions will accept the exams that you have taken through IPAL. So definitely before you enroll in an IPAL program, check directly with the jurisdiction. If you are interested in a jurisdiction that will accept your exams, then you don't lose those exams. If
5 years. If you pass an exam, you have 5 years to take it.
Right, for the rolling clock. But not all jurisdictions will accept the exams taken through IPAL. So you definitely want to check directly with the jurisdiction. Otherwise, you don't lose the exam. You've taken it, you passed it, and you would just continue to take the remaining divisions. So the next question is, from your experiences with IPAL, is there any feature or practice you would recommend any IPAL program incorporate into their program? Okay, that question to you, Patricia. As a university that has implemented IPAL and has done so, in a phenomenal way, what would you recommend for, what practice or feature would you recommend within the IPAL program for someone to incorporate within their IPAL program if they're trying to get started?
And I presume that this question may be coming from an educator or a university administrator. I would recommend, if that's the question, in fact, I'm understanding it correctly, I would actually recommend that students recognize when they need to be focused on their university courses and when they need to be focused on their professional licensing examinations and or internships. Because the requirements of becoming a licensed architect are threefold: graduating from a NAB accredited institution, the education part of it. I know there's alternative ways of getting the education, but it's education based, the exam, and the internship. So a student that passes all the exams but is failing a history class is not the kind of IPAL student that NCARB wants, nor what we want at the university. So my advice to university educators would be to clearly designate those lines where students can take those exams and when students really need to focus on their classes. And I know that some universities and some IPAL tracks at universities have a really open, flexible system, which also has benefits. But I think that creates for students a little bit more confusion, and that leaves to the students' hands a decision of what to prioritize.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think the way that Catholic set up their IPAL program is really smart because if you think about it, studio as it is hard enough, and balancing studio with like 4 other classes is really difficult. So personally, I can't imagine having to balance an internship and taking the exams on top of that. So I really appreciate that Catholic allows me to really focus on my education while I'm in school. And then when I'm away for 8 months, I'm really able to focus in and fully engage in my work at work. And then after work, I'm able to just study for my exams and just focus on that.
I actually encourage my students to take jobs that are far away from where they're living so they can study on a 2-hour bus ride to and from work, because that's 4 hours. And in Washington, D.C. traffic, that's an opportune time to open up one of the study guides.
And speaking of jobs, the next question is, how easy is it to obtain internship after first or second year as a student? Most firms seem to want at least a third-year student.
Yeah, so definitely I think because IPAL is such a new program, lots of firms are kind of weary to hire IPAL students because we are so young. But I think when you have to explain the program to the person that you're interviewing with. And after explaining that program, I think lots of the people I was interviewing with kind of looked at me and they were like, wow, like this is really intense. You did this, like you're going to do it. So definitely a level of respect was kind of given to me when I explained the program and like what is expected of me through Catholic. But also now being in DC and having lots of students, IPAL students getting jobs and stuff, we've kind of created a name for ourselves within the DC firms. So now DC firms in particular are looking to just seek out IPAL students because they know that we're really hardworking and we're dedicated.
And also with Catholic, because we have a pretty stringent grade point requirement, we require our IPAL students to maintain a 3.2 grade point average. You really can't have a 3.2 grade point average in architecture school if you're failing your studios. So thereby, you have to be a fairly sufficient architectural designer in order to maintain the high GPA and then hence to get the jobs. So
yes. Do you two think IPAL helps improve diversity in the profession? Do you find students are more diverse in terms of age, gender, race, or ethnicity?
That's a great question. I think IPAL opens the doors to those opportunities to a variety of diverse backgrounds a lot earlier than a traditional architectural education. But I also think it depends on the school. What's your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, I'm Latina and I'm a woman and we have a full board of women here. So that just goes to show that as architecture in general is becoming more diverse and more accepting of all kinds of people, so is IPAL. I don't see a normal architecture track too different from an IPAL track other than it's more intensive. But that's a personal choice if you want to get into IPAL or if you want to do a normal architecture track. So it's all inclusive.
And I do also just want to mention a little bit different from the diversity question, but still important, that as an administrator, I want to encourage all my students, all my undergrad and the grad students, to achieve their licensure or not in the way that they want to. Some students drop out of IPAL. Let me give you an example, because one of the students, great student, successful in IPAL, simply recognized that architectural marketing was something that he was a little bit more interested in after he had his first internship. I think that if IPAL opens the doors to other careers and other diverse fields, I think that IPAL isn't failing, because I think it gives an opportunity to that student a little bit earlier before he actually has a degree in architecture to seek or to find what he is inherently wanting to do.
Absolutely. And I think that's how we define the success of IPAL as well. Are we reducing the amount of time it would take a student to obtain their license, and are they ultimately getting licensed? And we've had 7 students who have done so since the inception of the program. So that's a great point. Andrea, how do you think your involvement in the IPAL option at your school will expand your career opportunities?
It already has. So I just finished working my first internship in my hometown of Frederick, Maryland, and I absolutely loved the opportunity. I learned so much that I'm now applying to my senior studio. How to lay out a floor plan, a little bit of marketing, some graphics. So apart from IPAL helping me achieve my career goals, it's also helping me achieve my academic goals, because it really pushes you and accelerates you into the real world faster. So I see it as a positive. It's overwhelming at some points, but it's really just a huge learning experience that helps in every way, I would say.
At CUA, I always tell the students that are coming back from their internships, they're always more mature. They have a confidence that I really can't explain, but they come back from 8 months of working in a firm and they just know what it's about. They come into the school and I joke with them. I say, welcome back to school. Now you have to pay for what you were just paid to do. And I think that's a little bit ironic, but I think that goes to really encompass what IPAL is. And that's the back and forth of working and continuing to finish school. And that, I think, synergy that plays, I think, is mutually beneficial to a portfolio and also your academic classes.
Thank you. So we are almost out of time. So before we sign off, can you please each share a key takeaway you would like the viewers to take away?
I would say before you get into IPAL, definitely check in with yourself and make sure that architecture is something that you really love, because IPAL is as great as it is a pretty stringent process, but it's doable as long as the passion is there and the drive is there.
I would have to also piggyback on that and say the commitment is the most important. IPAL is an amazing program offered by NCARB. No more do we have to wait in line for 14 years or 12 years to gain a license in architecture. But I think that IPAL needs to be seriously considered because it's really a commitment. And it's not for the faint-hearted. It's a drive. It requires a passion, like Andrea was saying, but also a commitment.
Awesome. And with that being said, thank you all for joining us. We hope you enjoyed today's webinar. If we didn't get a chance to answer all of your questions, feel free to leave your questions on our blog, YouTube channel. You can reach out to our customer relations department directly, or you can contact us directly at ipal@ncarb.org, or view our website, ncarb.org/blog. So we have a number of different ways to contact us. Again, thank you for joining us, and see you next time.